and welcome to this review of the One Way UK Daily Devotionals for the week commencing 19th going through to the 13th of April. And we're returning to the series Events Before the Cross, looking through John 19 verses 1 to 12a. But first of all, Easter Monday. And on Easter Monday we consider the fact that it's associated in the minds of many Christians and non-Christians alike with holidays, parades and festivities. Now spiritually one could look at these activities as a joyous celebration of the potential for new life in Christ. A worldly view might be that it's a time off for a bit of a lark. Biblically, it can be all good because we looked at the verse from Proverbs 17:22. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. So I hope you had a really cheerful Bank Holiday Monday, Easter Monday, whichever way you look at it. Moving on to Tuesday, we returned to our series, Events Before the Cross, and we see the time when Jesus is beaten up by the soldiers. They scourged him with a multi-thonged whip with metal or bone pieces attached to it. And after he'd been scourged, Pilate then went out again and said to them, "Behold, I'm bringing him out to you, that you may know that I find no fault in him." It's an interesting thing. He's a strange, ambivalent character, Pilate. The 19th century preacher, the man called the Prince of Preachers, Charles Haddon Spurgeon, he actually said this about Pilate. Poor Pilate, he was interested and favourably impressed and went out to try and clear his prisoner, towards whom he had a mingled feeling of wonder, pity and awe. Well, that must have had a lot to do with what his wife said. In Matthew 27:19 it's recorded that Pilate's wife warned him, "Have nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things today in a dream because of him." Historical records about Pilate are incomplete and uncertain, but he seems to have been more concerned with the crowd's reaction than justice for Jesus. Question for you and I is, do we go with the crowd or do we choose to stand up for Jesus? On Wednesday, Jesus is put on display. Pilate brings out Jesus before the crowds, and he's wearing the crown of thorns, not Pilate of course, but Jesus, and he's cloaked in a purple robe. And Pilate said to them, "Behold the man." Now, in Latin, that phrase is ecce homo, and it's fascinated me. I don't know why, but two particular statues I find moving and speak to me. One was this one, created by Jacob Epstein in 1934-35. I think the monumental style, because it's just carved from one block of marble, the squatness of the figure, the massiveness of it, reminds me that Jesus is the rock upon which I stand. The other representation is entirely different and was the first piece to occupy the empty fourth plinth in Trafalgar Square, and it was created by Mark Wallinger. As you can see, Christ stands erect, life-size as an ordinary man in a loincloth, hands tied behind his back and a crown of thorns on his head. And positioned at the front of the plinth in Trafalgar Square, somehow that positioning added to the figure's vulnerability. This is Jesus, the man who died for you and me. On Thursday, we looked at the issue of shirking responsibility. Now, a difficult thing about leadership is taking responsibilities for our actions. Years ago, a pastor and I had the responsibility concerning who should be involved in children's ministry. Now, whenever the answer was no, I would be the one who would be sent to the individual and explain the thinking behind our decision. It was never easy, and I never found no a pleasant thing to say. But it was my responsibility, and I couldn't shirk it, and so I had to do it. But it does give me an idea how Pilate must have felt facing up to the anger of the crowd and of the Jewish leaders. Also, the Jews gave Pilate one more reason for him to fear. They said that Jesus made himself the Son of God. Now that must have reinforced in Pilate's mind the warning which we considered earlier, that his wife had given him. You remember, I'll just remind you that she said that, I have suffered many things today in a dream because of him. So this whole thing of shirking responsibility, it's not easy to take responsibility, but actually it's not so clever to shirk it either. And I think the whole question that faced Pilate was, does he take the right decision, or does he allow mob rule to reign? But again, the question is, that decision was made and it was taken 2,000 years ago. But the question that you and I face daily is, how do we handle the responsibilities that we have, whether at home, at work, or in the church? On Friday, we finished the work. On Friday, we finished the week looking at the origin of power. Jesus said to Pilate, "You could have no power at all against me unless it had been given you from above." And I think Pilate touches at the root of our human condition today. Our desire to believe that we're in control. And yet every natural disaster mocks our frailty. And Jesus adds to the list when he points out to Pilate that we work within a framework set from above. Positively, you and I have good works for us to fulfill, which have been prepared beforehand by God for us to do. Our free will comes into play when we decide to either be disobedient or obedient, or to do a job badly or well. There's a song, God is in control, and that is what Jesus is telling Pilate. I think the question that we have to ask ourselves today, as we come up to the weekend, is, over the weekend, how would others recognise that God is in control of our lives? Have a great time, and I look forward to being with you next week.
How deep is his love?